It's me, Greg Schweitzer, founder and chief catalyst at Catalyst Transformation Institute. And I'm going to share with you a couple of phrases, and I want to ask you if you've heard this before. The first phrase is, you can never have more success than you have discipline. The next phrase is, you can never have more happiness than you have discipline. And the third phrase is, you can never have more freedom than you have discipline. I don't know if you believe this, but in all of my work and all of my experience in life, I found this to be really, really true, and I'm not alone. And so I firmly believe this, but what I really want to do today is I want to help equip you with the how. You see, when we hear these mottos and phrases and mantras and those kinds of things, they're only helpful to a certain degree, because knowing this or hearing this sort of thing doesn't necessarily help us make it happen. And that's what I'm really all about, is I want to help you be at cause and put you in power around the results in your life. So let's talk about the 5 R's of self-mastery. Okay? The 5 R's of self-mastery are how you can be able to leverage discipline to have the happiness, the freedom, and the success that you really, really want. You ready? The first R is called right way. Okay? There's a way things work. There's a right way to do stuff, and then there's a way that doesn't work. There's a wrong way, if you will, okay? It just doesn't make something come together. All right? And so what I want you to know is, as I'm sharing these things with you, I think this conversation is important enough to equip you to be able to have self-mastery, which is the key to all happiness and success and freedom. But I also have my notes sitting right here, because I think this conversation is important enough that I don't want to miss anything. I don't want to spare any expense. I don't want to hold back. I'm going to give you everything I got. I trust that you're okay with that. The right way. Okay? This is about prevention of problems. You see, wrong things, doing the wrong thing equals a difficult future. But doing the right things the right way creates a lot less problems. There are a lot of people who jump out and just take some action and start running in a direction, not knowing if they're doing the right thing or if they're doing it the right way, but I'm just going to get started. And you know what? As long as that person is okay with a lot of challenges and problems that they have to overcome to get somewhere, they might make it. But I don't know about you. I'm a big fan of doing things the easy way if I can. I'm a big fan of doing the things that create the results so that I can enjoy the results that I got. It's not about laziness. This is about efficacy. Efficacy is your belief in your ability to make things happen. It's your ability to make stuff come together. Okay? So starting off by doing the right thing the right way is going to be really, really critical. Okay? So now what I want to share with you is each of the 5 R's, I've given them a motto. Okay? It would be if the R of right way could speak, would be its motto that it says. The motto of the right way is just do the next right thing. That's it. That's it. If you just figure out what is it that I need to do next, and you figure out that it's the right thing, the right way, you do that. And then when you're done with that, guess what you do? You do the next right thing. All right, so of the 5 R's, R number 2 stands for resistance. You don't need me to tell you this, and you'll probably think of 1,000 experiences in your life that once you begin taking action on something, resistance shows up, right? Sometimes we run into challenges, hiccups, speed bumps, whatever they are, but in some way, shape, or form, resistance shows up. And my friend, resistance is the refusal to accept or comply with that interference, with that challenge. The truth of the matter is, when you want something and you're going to begin with doing it the right way, you're going to have to fight for it, right? We have to fight for having the life that we want and the success that we want and the freedom that we want and so on. So we got to fight for it. That's why we got to resist, okay? This also puts us in a position to avoid simply rolling over when you receive opposition. Yeah, there's going to be people, there's going to be circumstances, there's going to be things that are going to show up, and you might even get in your own way from time to time and create some of that interference. But simply rolling over and giving up is an abdication of your sovereign authority. Ooh, fancy term. But I want you to hear that for a minute. An abdication, meaning you're giving up your sovereign authority to direct your life, and you'll never win that way. You'll never have freedom and happiness and those kinds of things. And I want you to stay in power around your results. All right, a little bit more about resistance. Years ago, there was a gentleman who wrote a book. He's actually called the father of modern positive psychology. His name is Martin Seligman. And he wrote a book called Learned Optimism. Okay? That optimism and pessimism are learned traits, learned behaviors. And you see, it's those people who have a tendency to have learned pessimism, that are the ones that have a tendency to give up. So if we have a learned pessimism, we don't resist. And I want you to be able to resist. All right, you ready for the motto for resistance? All right, for the second R, which is resistance, the motto is resistance is not futile. For those of you who are Trekkies, Star Trek fans, that'll make some sense for you. But most of us have heard that term that resistance is futile. No, it's not. Okay? And you can become stronger at being resistant to the challenges that are coming at you. Resistance is not futile. All right. Number 3, the third R of the 5 R's is resilience. See, what happens oftentimes is when we're off and running, we're putting our energy towards doing the right thing the right way, and we receive a little bit of resistance and we have to fight back on that, it's going to take some resilience and energy, and resilience is critical. Listen, I want to define resilience for you a little bit in a way that's going to help you be able to see it. We have to first begin by accepting the fact that things aren't always going to go our way. That sounds kind of a little counterintuitive, but one of the keys to resilience, one of the keys to resilience is understanding that things just aren't always going to go our way. And if we can understand that and allow it to be a reality, there are some things we can just let them roll off our back and go, you know what, that didn't go the way I wanted to, but I'm going to keep going. And that's a lot about what resilience is. You see, resilience is about handling setbacks. It's about handling stuff that has come and is either currently challenging us or has taken the wind out of our sails, right? It's like taking one to the gut. How do I recover from that, right? It's handling setbacks. And be really careful to the meaning that you give to the opposition or to the resistance, to the interference that's showing up. Okay, this is really critically important because we start giving these weird meanings to the resistance that shows up for us, or the interference that shows up for us, and we give it a meaning like, oh, see, this was never meant to happen, or oh, I guess I'm just not good enough to handle this, or I'm not strong enough, or I'm not smart enough, and that is a terrible way, and another way to abdicate your sovereign authority. All right, one more thing about resilience is that our biggest problem when it comes to resilience is believing that we shouldn't have any. Right? Our biggest problem is believing that we shouldn't have any problems. And it's really the fact that, the fact of life that problems do show up. Things get hard sometimes and interference shows up. And yet, like I said before, overcoming interference really makes us feel like we've really come through. The motto for resilience in the 5 R's of mastery is make meaning, avoid misery. Make meaning, avoid misery. When you receive interference and you're going to stand strong against the wind, right? Against the waves, against the current, if you will, give it a proper meaning. It doesn't mean you're weak or broken or any of those kinds of things, but what it might mean is like, hey, I just need to put in a little bit more effort. Hey, this means that I'm on the right track because I'm receiving some resistance and I'm going to go for it. The 4th R of the 5 R's of self-mastery is recovery. When we begin with doing the right thing the right way and we receive some interference and we resist that interference, and then we have some resiliency to handle those things that are coming out of us, right? And handling those setbacks, then it's helpful to have some recovery. You see, we can't, as human beings, we're never intended to continue any sort of activity indefinitely. We need rest. We need recovery. We need restoration, okay? And so, what's your recovery time like? Give yourself some recovery, okay? Some recovery time. What does that need to look like? I don't know. Maybe you need to go for a run or a workout. Maybe you need to take a nap. Maybe you need to get a little bit extra sleep. Maybe you need to take a vacation. But the bottom line is that in order for us to be able to have the energy, the willpower to continue in self-mastery, we need to rest. We need to recover. We need to regain our strength. Yes? There's also an interesting piece here about recovery, and it's around the grief cycle. Because sometimes, in the midst of swinging for the fences, in the midst of trying to be our best self and have self-mastery, it can be a little bit tiring, and it can feel like, sometimes it feels like a loss. Sometimes it feels like it's hard. And so there's the grief of understanding that, sometimes things are difficult, and allow yourself to experience the grief. Right? This whole toxic positivity sort of thing is not working for me or anybody else for that matter. Okay? There are times when it makes sense for us to go through a grief and understand that there was some loss or some frustration, and to acknowledge it, let it be for a minute. And then we can let go of it and move on the other side. remembering that letting go is for the purpose of receiving. Okay, so that's part of recovery. And also, be kind to yourself. Every person's recovery method is going to be a little bit different. The way that you restore yourself to get back at it with life and with mastering your own self so that you can have the freedom and the happiness and the success, it's going to be different for each individual person. Find what works for you and be good to yourself. The motto for this fourth R of the 5 R's of self-mastery is have a 5-minute funeral, get back on the horse. Okay? Grief does not have, recovery does not have to take a long time. Do enough for yourself, whatever that means for you to be able to feel recovered, but have the 5-minute funeral over what didn't go right, and then get back on the horse. Okay? All right. Number 5 of the 5 R's of self-mastery is recalibrate. See, what happens a lot of times is people who are experiencing less happiness, less success, and less freedom is that they may go through the 4 of the 5 R's and get to recovery and never pull themselves out of recovery. It's called quitting. It's called giving up. Okay? Oh, I'm so tired. This has been so hard. I'm gonna go take a break. And then they never get back to the thing. They never get back to self-mastery or helping themselves grow. And so this is why the recalibration phase is so important. To recalibrate is in relation to a feedback loop. You see, we've gone through this process of the right way and the resistance and the resilience and the recovery, and now we have this feedback loop that's giving us information that says, hey, this worked, this didn't, so let's rinse and repeat what worked, and let's edit or pivot around what didn't. And that's what recalibration is all about, okay? It's making corrections to the process of becoming the best version of yourself, of becoming a master of yourself, okay? One really good way to do this too, besides your own experience of the feedback loop, get some advice, get a coach, get somebody who's in your corner, cheering you on, flying your flag and singing your song, but at the same time holding you accountable to the greatness that's already inside of you. Sometimes, a lot of times, we can't see our own junk. We can't see the stuff that's getting in our own way around self-mastery, and it's good to have insight of another person for both the stuff that tells us how great we're doing and the stuff that tells us like, hey man, you're hiding from this. You need to pony up. Okay? I've got a couple of coaches in my life. And I also have a wife who likes to coach me sometimes, and I receive it as often as I can because it really does give me new insight, new information to pivot and start the cycle back around with doing things the right way and begin again with self-mastery, okay? So here's the motto for the recalibration phase of the 5 R's of self-mastery. Adjust and then do the next right thing. We began at the very beginning with doing things the right way, which is just do the next right thing. And then when we get through this process and we recalibrate is an adjustment, and then again we do the next right thing. So beautiful, right? Simple 5-step process for you to be the best version of yourself, and it's somewhat cyclical. You can rinse and repeat. You can keep going through this process. And what's great about that, my friend, is that it creates progress. And you know that when you're progressing and you're getting better and you're gaining mastery around something, it feels good. Progress over perfection. These are the 5 R's of self-mastery. Take them, use them. I hope it equips you to be able to make something happen. Give me some feedback. Reach out to me. Let me know how it goes. And if you want some help in this area as a coach, that's what I do. I would love to cheer you on and help you out. You know I love you. Be great. It's what you're made for. Bye.